Hey, good morning. It's John F. Gately. You can call me Jack, broadcasting to you from beautiful Plymouth, Massachusetts. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. I understand it's going to be a little cold and rainy today. Just what we need as we head into March. Like, isn't March it's a cold and rainy month? Exactly. It absolutely is a cold and rainy month. Lots of good stories. Great to be back with you. Missed yesterday's show. I was on special assignment, which actually amounted to nothing but a lost day. So, yeah, no special report coming. It was kind of a wild goose chase. So that's sometimes, life just throws up. I took the loss yesterday, basically. Let's just put it that way. And so missed the show, yeah, but great to be back with you this morning. Happy Thursday. I do see outside the studio window here, it getting a little dark out there, a little breezy, light wind. We'll call it a light wind. And I think it's going to be some kind of rain we have some warmer temperatures today, of course, which are going to be very troubling for the climate czar here in Massachusetts, Melissa Hoffer. She might, even though it's raining, she might again feel uncomfortable. Well, I'm really glad to be with you here. Let's start off with the story that I tweeted out yesterday, and I think many of you followed, and we're not going to go deep into it because I think you should all be up to date on it by now. But Riley Gaines also chiming in on the Representative Laurel Libby controversy up in Maine. As you might know, Laurel Libby, she tweeted out a picture which clearly demonstrated why boys should not be playing girls' sports. And she has been censured by the Maine House of Representatives. When I yesterday was sitting in the airplane, I kind of said that these two pictures here, this picture here of her getting censured, and this person here of stopping the tank in Tiananmen Square are pictures of the same thing, totalitarianism. That's what these pictures are. These are pictures of totalitarianism. I don't know if some of you younger people might not have recognized this tank picture. But yeah, that is the famous picture of the tank, the line of tanks, and the man who stood in front of them in Tiananmen Square. What was that? What year was that? Was that 89 or 91? But I remember watching that. It was one of those moments that just completely and absolutely seared in your mind. And I got that same sense when I watched Laura Libby stand before the speaker the other day. Exact same feeling. These are both pictures of totalitarianism, which brings me to our top story from hecheated.org. Hecheated.org. Great to have you here this morning. Thanks so much. I'll put up the comments over here so I can see them if they come in. Great. Foxboro, girls basketball. Hold on. Wait a second. Girls basketball plays a tournament game tonight against Swampscott at 5:30 at Foxboro High School. The Foxboro team has been on fire the last couple of years, and they've won the tournament in 2023 and 2024, and they're back to repeat possibly for the third straight year. You still got to go through the tournament. As I said, they've only lost one game. There are 19-1. And that one game they lost because their star player was out. Their star player was out that game. They lost that one game, but otherwise they're 19-1. They're a powerhouse. And yeah, so here is the words from the coach, as quoted in the local newspaper and repeated here by hecheated.org. She's the secret weapon I've actually never had in 12 years of a coach. Few teams have players like her. Now, why would that be? Why would few teams have a player like her? And why has she not had this type of secret weapon before? Because the secret weapon isn't a girl, it's a boy. It's a boy playing girls basketball. Now, in the town of Foxboro, there is a boys basketball team that this person could try out for, but instead they elect to play girls basketball. And the Foxboro Warriors are 19-1. I think it is the Warriors, by the way. Oh, that's an awful racist name, by the way. They should probably change it. Yes, it is the Foxboro Warriors. Yeah, they should change that. That's awful and racist. I can't believe they have that name. Getting back to our he cheated thread. It is down one about what very few girls teams have players like her, as he cheated says. Actually, unless you're the zero girls team that play, it turns out the secret weapon is none other than a 6'3" male, a 6'3" male player who's helped win the past 2 championships and is a strong favorite for this year. Eddie, now going by the name of Addie, has been a key player in each of the Foxboro tournament runs as a sophomore Reuter. By the way, this is the, offspring of a school committee member who I think he was very recently a school committee member, and I think he still is. Or most recently, what recently was a school committee, might still be. Reuter is the 6'3" secret weapon. And again, the game is tonight. One of the games in the tournament is tonight in Foxboro. Foxboro is, again, 19-1. They've only lost one game, and that was when Eddie wasn't able to play, I think, had an injury. So when you get back, you can see where this is completely connected to the main story in the Riley Gaines tweet and why I put this out. Is this fair? Is this fair? If Swampscott loses tonight, how would you like to be a member of the Swampscott girls basketball team? An actual girls basketball team. Is it fair to all of the other teams that Foxboro competed against this year or last year or the year before that? No, it's not. Let's have girls play girls sports and boys play boys sports. I don't even want to talk about there are other things that I'd much rather talk about, like the economy and those types of things. That's kind of like my niche. Like, this is not my niche. I don't wake up in the morning and want to talk about this. But it's so completely insane that we have to talk about it. Right? That's the way I view it. This is like, I don't want to talk about this story. But the level of insanity is such that we have to. And remember and I hate to say this too, but it's true. Like, the Marxist insanity that's pushing this, the whole point is to get you to admit to something that you know is not true. Because when they can get you to admit to something that you know is not true, they have complete power over you. In the pandemic, we talked about, and you could hear Tucker Carlson say, if they make you take a shot, they have complete power over you. And that's over your physical body. But when they can literally make you believe, when they can literally control your mind and make you call somebody a she when they're not, that's like real power and vile at the same time. Backgrounder on that whole Libby, Representative Libby situation. You can get it over at the Main Wire. Steve Robinson from the Main Wire. Maine's liberal polls expressed more outrage tonight over a picture that served as evidence of the state-sanctioned civil rights violations than they did when a trans male student assaulted and hospitalized a female student last year. I don't even like to use the word trans, because I think that is purposely it just kind of like evades the question. Here's the thread I wanted to open up here. If you want to go dive deep, I thought this thread by Steve Robinson, Big Steve 207, was worthy of your time. And of course, Pam Bondi just yesterday again focused on Maine. I would love to see them basically double down and start to focus on Massachusetts. And a story we covered for you a couple of days ago, and Libs of TikTok is now, it's kind of circulating up the food chain here. As Jonathan Turley reports, the First Circuit had held that parents have no right to know about their 11-year-old changing gender in school. And we covered this story, and now Libs of TikTok is on it, appropriately labeling it insane. Appropriately labeling insane. Great to have you here. Let's see if we have any comments. Comment from Ron. When is a boyfriend going to put a all right, I don't know. Okay. Yeah. I feel I understand what you're saying, but like it's there's a lot of emotion, and let's understand that this is a kid too. Right? They're not an adult. So yeah. But so are the other kids, right? And it's us as adults that set policy in society that we have to step up to the point that I don't even want to have this topic. I don't want to talk about it, but I feel like I gotta, right? And thank goodness for people like Riley Gaines who was how do I want to say this? For whom this fraud was committed upon in her own collegiate career, for stepping up, and she's the real hero here. All right, so a lot of news yesterday at the State House, but the most important thing that happened at the State House is that the money continued to flow to the Healey Hotels. Let's bring up the story here, NBC News Boston.
It lowers the cap from 9 months to 6 months. Statutory caps the number of families that can be in EA at 4,000, which is the tradition.
All right, hold on a second. Let's just pull this up here. This is better here. So this is the Senate budget chief here explaining how awesome the reforms are that they put in place. Let's listen.
It lowers the cap from 9 months to 6 months, and
with giant loopholes.
Statutory caps the number of families that can be in EA at 4,000, which is the traditional pre-migrant inflow level.
Lie. That is actually a lie. You might remember back to October of 2023, the Healey capped it at 3,500, and actually before that, before the invasion, the level was much lower than 3,500 families.
So I think it strikes a good balance.
Do you feel like this informs that next budget to try and get a number that maybe will last an entire fiscal year for the shelters?
Because what they've done this year, if you're not aware, is they first put in $325 million, then 259, I believe, and now yesterday, sitting on the governor's desk, is another $425 million. Got to make sure that gravy train keeps going.
We're hoping that the number that we include in FY26 annual budget will last the full year because, the well is dry.
The well is dry. The well is dry. And what he means by that is that they've actually spent a boatload of pandemic money, which is, I think it called TEF money, and they basically spent all the TEF money. So, but that's federal money, Jack, so it doesn't matter, right? And which basically means that in future years, the money for this program is going to come out of the is actually going to come out of Massachusetts money, which is what this guy here is responsible for. They will continue to be completely dishonest again about this because, number one, they're not going to pass a state budget for FY26 until well into FY26. So if you think we're going to have a FY26 budget on the first day of the fiscal year, no. They're not going to pass that probably until well into August. So, I mean, that's another lie from Senator Rodriguez.
State leaders recognizing that reality and the need for adjustments.
And I'm pleased to see that they enacted the reforms that I proposed. I know there are.
Very happy about the reforms. Understand that this bill was all about getting the headline, shelter reforms passed. That's the purpose of this bill, and to give the money. But the patina of having reforms is the only thing that the people want so that they can continue to vote for the money. We're going to find out how bad this is in just a second. Here we go, Mayor Wu.
Very real as well.
But budget hawks remain skeptical of the state's approach.
We're just spending a lot of taxpayer money and not really dealing with the underlying issues.
Seeing more of the same and little chance of course correction.
They're not going to change what's going to happen in a few months, which is more stories that we've seen will continue on, and the taxpayers are going to be on the hook for another bailout in probably 6 months.
An Outlook Chairman Rodriguez pushes back on, calling this a compromise aimed at stability.
When you end up someplace in the middle trying to reach a balance, you get those at the extreme ends of the fulcrum, disappointed.
Paul, you're on Paul Craney from Massachusetts Fiscal. You're on the extreme ends of the fulcrum, Paul. How dare you complain about giving over $1 billion? Well over $1 billion. You're on the extreme end of the fulcrum. Overton window shift, right? If you complain, you're an extremist. Paul Craney from Mass Fiscal, extremist. That is so dishonest of the Senate budget chief, because what really is happening here are simply papered over reforms and keeping the money flowing. As Craney adds in this interview, no meaningful reforms added, cooperation with ICE rejected, universal background checks rejected. They'll be back asking to spend more tax dollars. The only thing that is actually going to solve this problem will be the decline in demand. And who do we have to thank for that? Trump might actually, in his policies, result in a lower demand for the red carpet that we have here in Massachusetts. But if you think that this program is going to go from $1 billion back down to its pre-invasion numbers, adjusted for inflation, you're widely mistaken. What the Healey administration is going to do, they're going to play a little shell game on you here. Listen up. This is what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to reduce the amount of money in this line item for emergency shelter, and they're going to try to shift that money over to rent subsidies. So we may end up spending $1 billion or even more on $30,000 rent subsidies. But she'll stand up at some debate this year or next year, and she'll say, we reduced the emergency shelter funding. Maybe. But while you did that, you also dramatically increased the rent subsidies for illegal immigrants, right? Oh, they're not illegal, Jack. Nobody's illegal on stolen land. Oh, but their TPS status got revoked. What does TPS status stand for? It stands for temporary protected status. And if you got protected status and it was temporary, guess what? It's temporary, and you might have to go back. Oh, Jack, that's inhumane. Way to go, Paul Craney, for speaking up for some facts there. But Craney, he's obviously an extremist. He's on Team Reality. It's you people, the Senate budget chief, Maura Healey of the House. They are the extremists. Let's remember that we are the only state in the country with this law. No other state has this law. Who's the extremist now? They are. We're just Team Reality saying, hey, this is nuts. No other state is saying, hey, we should follow Massachusetts and have the same other. No other state is saying, not even California wants to have a law like we have. And Paul Craney's the extremist? That's insane. You're the extremist. You, my audience member, you're the extremist because you want to have a law just like the rest of the 49 states, and you don't want to be spending well over $1 billion, and now rent subsidies is the next thing. You don't want to do that, and you're the extremist? By the way, while I was on my wild goose chase yesterday, I did pull up the report that came out the other day. The Bridge Shelter Program, the average length to stay, which by the way, they've rebranded this. It just used to be the EA Shelter Program. Now they're calling it the Bridge Shelter Program. Bridge to Nowhere. The average length of stay is 384 days. 384 days. And then there's another shelter program, which is, the name escapes me. It's temporary, and that's well over 60 days. So, yeah, 384 days, and Maura is going to plan to get rid of the hotels by the end of this year. Because why? Why, Bueller? Because she's going to move everyone to apartments. What do you think is going to happen to the price of apartments when all of this subsidy money hits the marketplace? What do you think is going to happen then? Pretty easy question to answer. By the way, Jessica Machado has an exceptionally good thread on this, which was posted late last night. Jessica burning the midnight oil here. I throw out the you know what? You should do this too. You should go out and hit the repost button on that. You literally saw me do that live right here on the live stream. Governor Healey pledged to phase out migrant hotel shelters by the end of 2025. How's she going to do it? And the answer is that it's reported in this thread by Jessica Machado, which I strongly recommend that you read and repost. But the answer is she's going to, let's just scroll down here. Here it is. A home base helps families found eligible by providing up to $30,000 over a 2-year period with the possibility of a third year of help based on need if your family is found eligible for EA Shelter Home Program. But just by the way, just to let you know, I don't have a problem with the home base program by default, right? I think it's I think it has some merit. If it's restricted to Massachusetts, right? I think it in and of itself could be helpful in the right application, But understand that we are now going to, just like we had the Healey hotels basically open to the world, we are now going to open to the world a new benefit, which is a $30,000 housing voucher over 2 years and extendable up to year 3 based on need. And this is what's reported in the thread that you should go read. You can find it on my feed. And to be fair, I've been reporting on this for a long time because we covered the governor's pilot program on this project last year, which should have been wrapping up right about now. And it was a complete failure. They didn't hit any of their goals. I think they were like about 25% of goal in terms of moving people out of Healey hotels and into the rental apartment market. It didn't work. The pilot program, which they spent $10 million on, didn't work. And now they're going to try to supersize that because why? Anybody know why she wants all the Healey hotels closed by the end of 2026. Excuse me, the end of 2025. Oh, I just gave you the answer, actually. Why would she want all of the Healey hotels closed by the end of 2025? And the answer is 2026, because she's facing re-election in 2026. So she wants to run around the state in 2026 saying, I closed all the Healey hotels, which she doesn't call them that. But that's the idea. What she's not going to tell you, and what the media is so goddamn lazy won't report, is that she shifted all these people into the apartment rental market, which is going to drive up rents and lower the supply, right? Exactly. So it's election year, or we're on the eve of election year when Governor Healey starts doing this type of thing. And we are in an election year when it comes to the mayoral race in the beautiful city of Boston. Because Mayor Wu has suddenly discovered there's a drug problem. You can actually stand on the balcony of the State House. The governor has like a little balcony corner office. You can stand on the balcony of the State House and look down at the open air drug market at Park Street Station. And maybe you've walked through there yourself. And now the mayor, because she's facing a re-election effort from a well-funded candidate, has finally discovered it herself. Let's listen to Fox 25. Oh, hold on.
Now, Boston's mayor says it's time to crack down. Boston 25 News reporter Drew Caritas has followed this issue for years and broke this development last night. He's live in the city tonight with what's changing. Drew?
Rachel, the city of Boston is shifting to a stricter stance on people using drugs in public, with enforcement, consequences, and services over sentences for those who need treatment. We spoke.
Services over sentences. That's the new lingo. Services over sentences. Don't want to send people to jail for, I don't know, dealing or doing drugs in perfect. We have to give them services. Here's the thing. Here's the problem with services is they come the way. Here's the problem with services in the way that the city of Boston is going to deliver them, because it's basically the same way that the city of San Francisco delivers them, or California. And that is with no accountability. We're going to give you more services, but we're not going to insist that you get off drugs, or even in some cases force you to get off drugs. We're not going to have mandatory treatment. No, we're not going to do any. We're just going to dial up the spending. We're going to throw more money at it, but we are most certainly going to not arrest you. Services over sentences. That's the new lingo. Media eats it up.
Near the troubled Mass and Cass corridor, who say they've been calling for these changes for the last decade.
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Neighbors who have been forced to put up with drug use and crowds congregating near their front doorsteps are now waiting to see changes before the warmer months arrive.
If the city follows through on this, I think it can possibly make a real change.
This new video shows.
Oh, man. Do you see the needle stuck right in the tree?
Was an assortment of littered needles we found nearby, and small crowds. City leaders say they'll be working to.
Did you see that little clip right there?
We found nearby.
Hold on,
and small.
This clip here. This clip here is of Albany Street. You can see the name of the bus stop here. But this clip here is done from the car. It's done from the car. The Channel 25 made this clip from the car. Why would they do that? Why would they make a clip for this story? Why would they take some B-roll while they drove down the street? And the answer is it's too dangerous to get out of your car and stand there with a camera. It's too dangerous for even Fox 25, which, got all the news gear and all the, they got the jackets and everything. It's too dangerous for them to stand on the sidewalk and carry a camera. So they drive down the street to record this. By the way, this is on Massachusetts Avenue at the corner of Mass and Albany.
Crowds, city leaders say they'll be working to dismantle with an updated strategy.
When you see people actively doing drugs or buying drugs or dealing drugs, it is something that nobody wants to see, and it becomes a safety issue.
A memo from the city of Boston's coordinated response team describes, quote, a goal to end congregate substance use in neighborhoods of.
That's now the enemy, congregate substance abuse. Open air drug market. Same thing.
Boston and the criminal activity that supports it.
We're talking about
now they're cracking down. Okay.
Targeted and balanced approach towards accountability and enforcement.
Suffolk County DA Kevin Hayden stood alongside Boston Mayor Michelle Wu and Police Commissioner Michael Cox to talk about an impending crackdown.
That's Park Street.
On those selling and using drugs, with an increased police presence, active enforcement of drug laws, and diversion into drug treatment programs.
We're going to be leveraging.
Commissioner Cox now says that they're going to be having an increased presence 7 days a week. 7 days a week. Isn't that great? I thought the police department was already supposed to be working 7 days a week.
The system of the police department to directly engage with folks.
Jonathan Alves believes allowing people to inject, snort, and smoke illegal substances right out in the open has given drug users free rein. He says that anything goes mentality has spread far beyond the Mass and Cass corridor into other visible parts of the city, including Downtown Crossing and the Common.
It's not a too little too late scenario. It is finally happening.
And city officials say this expanded approach targeting groups of people using drugs in public is not a plan that's set in stone and is adaptable based on how things go. We're live in Boston South End. Drew Caritas for your local station, Boston 20.
Thank you, Drew Caritas, for not holding anybody accountable. Appreciate that, Drew. Yeah. How do I want to say this? It's. Oh, I'm just bringing up the next story here. Hold on. It's election year. Where did that post go? Here it goes. Here, I found it. Boston Radio Watch for the win. Boston Radio Watch for the win. Did someone say election year? Sorry about that. Couldn't find the right button. Did someone say election year? Street cleaner. Wu tries to contain Mass and Cass spillover, as if it would be morally acceptable to actually have it just contained to the less visible areas. Did you hear what Drew Caritas said at the end? He said it's now a problem because it's now in more visible areas, as if it would be any less morally outrageous if it was just kept to the industrial part of town. What is morally outrageous is the fact that we tolerate this without enforcing the law. Do you really think that they're actually going to arrest drug dealers? I would say they're going to probably arrest 1 or 2 drug dealers, but it's not. Basically, what they're going to do is they have a bunch of cops standing around a downtown crossing, right? When I go to Park Street next time, are there going to be 5 cops standing there? You know when you come up from the Park Street station? Yeah. When's the last time I got off of that station, which I go to on a semi-regular basis, and see 3 cops right there? Am I going to see 3 or 4 cops next time I'm there? I don't think so. And I've walked up that hill to the State House, I don't know how many times, and I've seen drug deals right on the walkway. Right there. I've sat there on the benches near the fountain and seen drug deals. All you got to do is sit there and have your eyes open. It's an election year. As soon as the election is over, all of that will be back, assuming Mayor Wu wins. This is the same theme as Governor Healey is going to investigate why electric rates are high. It's the same. Why are electric rates? Because of Governor Healey. Why is there open air drug market? Because of Mayor Wu. It's like as somebody at Mass Fiscal said yesterday, and as I alluded to you last week, create the problem, and then pledge to fix it. Or as I said last week, what the classic liberal solution to these things is basically pass some type of regulation, wait till it totally F's up the marketplace, and then when that happens, then claim that we need more regulation. That's exactly what's going on. You can see that with Governor Healey. Let's cut to it in terms of the electric bills.
Costs are impacting everyone right now, and this is not the time for big sudden increases.
Costs are impacting everyone like that. I'm pretty sure she did some polling in early January and found out that costs, she keeps on using that word cost. She uses it purposely. Nothing what this woman says is ever accidental. Everything is highly calculated. She uses that word cost purposely because she has some polling that it costs are a significant concern. Do you think? By the way, inflation here in Metro Boston is running at a rate which is at 4% as opposed to the national average, which is like 3%.
Increases. I've told the DPU to right now, in this moment, explore every option, every action that we can take to provide relief in this moment that we are in.
In this moment, it sounds like she sounds like Congresswoman Presley, right? Mrs. Potato Head. In this moment, change can't wait. In this moment,
We really need to see real action. We need to see it now.
Governor Healey telling the
How
Greater
about
Boston
some
Chamber of
action?
Commerce that her administration
Let's build a pipeline.
is filing an energy affordability and independence bill in the coming weeks.
An energy affordability and independence bill. How about we build 2 pipelines? This is going to be the classic case. If I created the problem, then I'm horrified that the market is now all FUBAR, and so I'm going to solve the problem with more regulation. The independence and the energy independence bill, that is going to just F everything up even more. The government here is not the answer. Get out of the way is the answer.
She also plans to roll out an energy affordability agenda, which she says will bring down costs for families and businesses. Healey said,
which she caused.
That energy companies plan to spread out costs over the course of the year isn't good enough. The Department of Public Utilities issued an order for gas bills to be cut by at least 5%.
Right. She did that.
And the first Muslim.
If you didn't notice, that's going to include interest on the 5%. And they're just basically, it's just a giant payment plan for everybody. It's just a giant payment plan for everybody. How about we have less government and more private sector? That might be a solution that will never occur to her. In the meanwhile, talking about government policies, which then result in a complete F up of the marketplace, and then the same people that created the problem come in and say, we can fix it. I noticed this tweet. I'm not a big fan of this account, but no, because usually it's complete fluff. Only in Boston says, Massachusetts adopts full practice authority, enabling nurse practitioners to evaluate patients, diagnose, order, and interpret tests, and prescribe medications without oversight of a supervising physician. Why would we need a law like that? And why is that a good thing? Isn't there supposed to be a difference between a nurse practitioner and a doctor? Right? Like it almost sounds as if they've promoted nurse practitioners to doctor, basically. In fact, according to this tweet, that's exactly what just happened. Nurse practitioners are effectively doctors. Now, they can't, perform surgery on you or anything like that, but basically any other office visit, they're your doctor now. They're who's the captain now? And why would we need that? Oh, doctors are opting out. We have a shortage of doctors. That's why they also just passed if you're a doctor in Yugoslavia, you can be a doctor here. If you're a doctor in the in the Serengeti plains in some African village, you can now be a doctor here. If you are a doctor in some woods village in Nepal, you can now be a doctor. Because why? Obamacare, Romney care. We have a shortage of doctors. And now nurse practitioners are doctors. What could go wrong? Jamie Eldridge, one of our least favorite state senators, Jamie Eldridge, is hosting a Stand for Democracy Rally for Unity and Justice event this Sunday at 2 p.m. Well, first off, let me tell you, Jamie, that I'm going to be watching race cars go around in circles, so I won't be able to make it. NASCAR races on Sunday at 3:00, and so I not going to be going to Acton, but of course it's in Acton. But Gonchanidi, is that how I say the Twitter name or the X name? Remember that democracy thing when you got the percentage wrong. 72% of the Massachusetts voted to audit the legislature, and Massachusetts Democrats did nothing except to block it. By the way, I really wish I had the post from Mark Lombardo, because Mark Lombardo did a great video on this. But once again, if you're not completely up to date, and I've got a little bit of jet lag, so I'm not sure what time zone I'm in right now. But Mark Lombardo did a great job the other day of getting a roll call on the legislature, and 127 members of the Massachusetts House voted against adopting the audit the legislature policy in the House rules, even though 72% of Massachusetts voters approved that provision in November, right? One of, if not the most popular ballot question of all time. Approved in every single city and town in Massachusetts. Every single city and town in Massachusetts. And Jamie Eldridge, completely ignoring that fact, is having a Stand for Democracy rally. Unity and justice. Is it a wonder that people are moving away from the Democrat Party and moving away from the Republican Party? Independent-minded Massachusetts voter breakdown, the latest political enrollment data from Massachusetts. Independents remain the dominant designation of choice. And so this is from October just of last year to February of this year. And the first thing that I notice is actually a lot of people are focusing on the shifting enrollments. But the first thing I notice is that we lost a lot of voters. We were at 5.142, and now we are down to 5.025. Did maybe a bunch of the illegal immigrants decided to unenroll? Oh, Jack, come on. None of the illegal immigrants are registered to vote. Don't say that. None of them are registered to vote. No, that wouldn't be. But why did we lose over 100,000 voters since October? That's a little weird. Maybe that's a normal post-election thing. I don't know. But that does seem a little bit weird to me. The percentages have creeped up for independents or unenrolleds. It's basically 65% right now. Democrats lost a little bit of enrollment in terms of the split. They went from 26.3 to 25.8. And Republicans lost the teeniest bit. Republicans lost a teeny bit, but almost treaded water. But unenrolled's big boost. And somehow we lost 100,000 voters between October. I don't know why that would be. People are moving and staying as independents, which brings up a suspicious question relative to the UMass WCVB poll that was issued earlier this week. So let's bring back a post. I know he's an extremist. I know the state budget chief says he's an extremist, but we're going to reference him again in this show. From extremist Paul Craney. In today's Herald, Galvin announced unenrolled voters are now 65%, and they're up a little bit, while Democratic registration is 26%. The UMass poll, a very astute observation, Mr. Craney, had unenrolled at 40% and Democrat Party voters at 38%. That's way outside of the margin of error, or basically the sample. The sample is completely wrong. The sample that gave Maura Healey a 52% approval rating dramatically over sampled Democrat voters by 12%. So they should have sampled Democrat voters at 26%. Instead, they sampled them at 38%. So maybe that 52% approval rating isn't exactly at 52. If you actually adjusted, and I could probably go back and do that, but I'm not going to bother. But if you actually properly adjusted these numbers, I think her approval rating would be below 50%. If you properly sample Democrats at 26%, her approval rating is going to be sub 50%. It's going to be sub 50 if you had the appropriate frame. If you had the appropriate frame. By the way, from what I understand on that, how do I want to say this, poll, they actually didn't poll registered voters. They polled residents, which could include anybody, could include anyone. Commonwealth Beacon for the loss. Thieves are stealing $1 million a month from mass SNAP recipients, and there's no easy way, and there is an easy way to fix it. State needs to add security chip to EBT cards, just as credit card companies did years ago. This is from Victoria and Betsy. This is from a week ago. And why do I say that this is a loss for Commonwealth Beacon? It's a loss because thieves are stealing way more than $1 million a month. If SNAP fraud was only $1 million a month, that would be an improvement. It's way more than $1 million a month. Way more. I know this is going to come as a sad thing. Tomorrow is Economic Blackout Day. A grassroots movement asks Americans to abstain from shopping from major retailers on tomorrow, February 28th. From Boston.com, they actually dug out some pathetic little store over in Cambridge, of course, in Cambridge. I'm surprised it's not a pottery shop on the corner of Sacramento and Mass Ave. They actually went over to finally to Gather Here, which is a Stitch Lounge. What the hell is a Stitch Lounge? They're closing Friday in solidarity with the nationwide grassroots movement for an economic blackout. We recognize that not every small business can make this decision, but we have been asking people to vote with their wallet since we opened in February of 2011 to spend more at local businesses is to support more business. How can we spend money at your business if you're going to be closed? Virginia Johnson. The People's Union USA is leading an economic blackout. It's a grassroots movement dedicated to resistance, government accountability, and corporate form. And Boston.com went all the way to Cambridge to find one store. Gather here. It's a Stitch. What was it called? I'm too laughing too hard. What was it called? It's a Stitch Lounge. Well, all right. Hold up. We're gonna do this together. Stitch Lounge. Gather here. We're gonna do this together. Let's pull it up here. Stitch Lounge. Gather here. Cambridge. What the hell is this? It's yarn, fabric, and sewing machines. Okay. All right. Yarn, fabric, and sewing machines. Gather here and make something. Nothing wrong with yarn, gathering, sewing machine, I guess. But they're going to be closed. So if you need to buy something, they're in the heart of Inman Square in Cambridge. If you need to get some extra sewing needles or whatever in Cambridge, you better run out today and get them, because Gather Here will be closed tomorrow. I know, National Day of Mourning or whatever. All right. Bill says, but you can't transfer your plumbing, electric, etc. license from most other states. That makes sense. Yeah, it does. It does when you figure it out. Bill says, more green BS on the way in the guise of some help. Right. We're here to help you. Maura is here to help you. She's going to solve the electric pricing problem. Exactly. Let's see. Massachusetts is looking more like Philadelphia every day. Yes. By the way, I went to Philadelphia a couple years ago, and you would think, that I would have gone to Philadelphia. I went in 2019, I think. I don't need to go again. Yeah. There's a lot of places. I'm very fortunate to be able to travel many different places. But Philadelphia is not one of those places where I need to go back to. It not necessarily the crime, because there's another place that has a even badder reputation for crime, and that's Memphis. But I love Memphis, and downtown Memphis I don't feel is crime ridden, even though they had their Chamber of Commerce president assassinated on the sidewalk. But aside from that, downtown Memphis during the daytime is actually a very pleasant, and I love Memphis, but I don't need to go back to Philadelphia. Part of the reason I love Memphis too is the culture. I mean, the food and the music. Memphis is a great place if you've a lot of fun. Not as much fun as Nashville. If you're a drinking type person, Nashville's a lot of fun. But if you can make the detour to Memphis, you got the Civil Rights Museum. You got it's worth the trip. Sun Records, Graceland, Stack Records, which actually you can't see it, but right over my head is my Stax Records hat. A great town. I love Memphis and all of the culture that comes from there. Let's see. This one's really good, Mary. Double talk, build the pipeline. Yeah, build the pipeline. Exactly. Build two while you're at it. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. You have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.